For 7 years running, the world has been told a comforting story. A story about a small northern nation that unlocked the secret to human contentment. Finland, the happiest country on earth. It is a headline that feels like a warm blanket in a cold world. A promise of pristine lakes, silent forests, and a society that just works. But this story, the one celebrated on news channels and in glossy magazines, is a fairy tale. And it's about to end, because behind the calm, a brutal, quiet war has begun. A war for Finland's soul, where the casualties are the very people who were promised a paradise. The illusion of Finnish perfection is a powerful one. It's built on images of saunas, northern lights, and a social contract so strong that trust is the national currency. Free, world-class education. Universal healthcare that catches you from the cradle to the grave. Unparalleled safety and equality. For decades, this system was the envy of the world, a shining example of what a nation could achieve when it put its people first. But in 2023, that foundation was rocked by a political earthquake. A new right-wing government came to power, looked at the bill for paradise, and decided the price was too high. What came next was nothing short of a declaration of war on the Finnish way of life. Billions of euros in austerity cuts were announced, targeting the pillars of the welfare state. Unemployment benefits were slashed. Housing support was gutted. Access to public health care was restricted. The changes were so sudden, so severe that they sent a shockwave through the nation. The country that prided itself on harmony suddenly found itself facing massive nationwide labor strikes, with workers pouring into the streets to protest the dismantling of their future. The veneer of perfection didn't just crack, it was shattered by the sound of its own government tearing down the dream. But this brutal shift didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the final, jarring note at the end of a very different song. Just a few years ago, the face of Finland was Sanna Marin, a prime minister who became a global icon of progressive, youthful leadership. She represented a modern, vibrant Finland, a nation that could be both responsible and cool. Then, videos surfaced of her dancing and celebrating at a private party. The international scandal that followed, dubbed Partygate, was about far more than a politician letting her hair down. It became a cultural flashpoint, a battle between an older, more conservative Finland and a younger generation that saw nothing wrong. Her eventual election loss and the rise of the new austere government felt like a national hangover. The party was officially over. Sanna Marin's era now looks like the last glimpse of a carefree dream before the country woke up to a crushing economic reality. The debate over her leadership exposed a deep fracture in the Finnish identity, and her fall from grace became a chilling symbol of a nation turning its back on a more optimistic future, choosing instead a path of painful sacrifice. And the deepest, most disturbing sacrifice might be the one happening inside the minds of the Finnish people. For years, experts have been baffled by a dark paradox lurking beneath the happiness surveys. How can the world's happiest country also have one of Europe's highest rates of antidepressant use? How can a society built on community suffer from a silent epidemic of loneliness, especially among its youth? The answer may lie in a celebrated national trait, sisu. It's a word that means stoic determination, resilience, and the quiet endurance of hardship. It's the spirit that helped Finland survive brutal wars and harsh winters. But some now believe the same cultural strength has become a prison. A pressure to remain silent, to never complain, to put on a brave face even when you're falling apart inside. The happiness surveys measure how satisfied people are with their lives, not how they actually feel day to day. And in Finland, it seems millions are satisfied with a life of quiet, dignified suffering, creating a fortress of silent misery hidden behind a smile. This isn't happiness. It's the perfection of emotional control. And it's breeding a mental health crisis that no global ranking can measure. This internal crisis is now colliding with an external one. In 2023, Finland made a historic decision to join NATO, ending decades of military neutrality to shield itself from Russian aggression. To the outside world, it looked like a smart, defensive move, but inside Finland, it came with a staggering, unspoken price tag. To meet NATO standards, the government committed to a massive military spending spree, including a $10 billion deal for state-of-the-art F-35 fighter jets. This decision was made at the exact same time the government began swinging an axe at social programs. While new mothers were seeing their benefits cut and unemployed workers were losing their safety nets, the nation's wealth was being funneled into advanced weaponry. It created a grim and unspoken reality. Finland was arming itself for a potential future war by bankrupting the very peace and stability its citizens cherish today. The government was choosing guns over butter, and for the average Finn, the cost of national security suddenly meant personal insecurity. But even the most advanced military cannot fight an enemy that is already inside the gates. Demographics. Finland is facing a mathematical death spiral. Its birth rate has plummeted to one of the lowest in Europe, far below the level needed to replace its population. Meanwhile, its people are living longer than ever. The result is a demographic time bomb. A rapidly shrinking number of young workers is being forced to support a rapidly growing number of retirees. The entire welfare state was built on a pyramid scheme that required each generation to be larger than the last. Now the pyramid is upside down, and the system is on the verge of collapsing under its own weight. The logical solution would be mass immigration to bring in new workers and taxpayers. Instead, the new government is doing the exact opposite. Fueled by nationalist sentiment, they are enacting some of the strictest anti-immigration policies in Europe, making it harder for foreign workers to come and even harder for them to stay. It's an act of national self-sabotage, a country with a fatal disease refusing the only known cure. Finland is knowingly locking its doors while the population inside slowly dies out. For those living outside the major cities, the future has already arrived, and it looks like a ghost town. The competitor's video mentioned automation, but it failed to capture the chilling reality on the ground. In rural Finland, technology hasn't just improved efficiency, it has erased entire communities. Highly automated timber mills and paper factories that once employed thousands now run with a skeleton crew of a few dozen technicians. AI-driven logistics have replaced truck drivers, and remote service centers have eliminated local jobs. The result is a landscape of quiet, perfectly maintained towns, where almost no one under the age of 50 lives. The schools are closing for lack of children. The local shops are shuttered. The young have fled to the cities in search of jobs that are themselves becoming scarcer, leaving behind an aging population trapped in a high-tech museum of what their country used to be. This isn't progress, it's a slow, creeping erasure, a society so efficient that it no longer has room for its own people. All of this has ignited an unspoken war between generations. The baby boomers, who came of age during Finland's golden era, got the full benefit of the deal. They received free education, enjoyed secure jobs, and are now retiring with generous pensions, all funded by the system they built. But their children and grandchildren are inheriting a broken contract. The youth of Finland now face a brutal reality. They are being asked to pay some of the highest taxes in the world to support a system from which they will never receive the same benefits. Student aid is being cut, making education more difficult. Housing benefits are vanishing, making it impossible to afford a home in the cities where the jobs are. And they are being told to work longer for a pension that shrinks every year. It has created a deep, simmering resentment. The young feel like they are paying for a party they were never invited to, while the older generation watches, insulated from the consequences. It is the ultimate paradox of the welfare state. A system designed to create equality is now breeding the most bitter inequality of all, the one between the past and the future. So, when the world crowns Finland the happiest country on earth, what are they really celebrating? They are celebrating a memory. A beautiful, humane idea from a bygone era that is now being kept alive on borrowed time and borrowed money. The Finland that wins awards is a phantom, a nation sustained by a reputation that no longer matches its reality. The real Finland is a country at a crossroads, caught in a perfect storm of austerity, a silent mental health crisis, demographic collapse, and a bitter generational divide. Its leaders are being forced to make impossible choices, dismantling the very things that once made them exceptional in a desperate bid to stay afloat. The question is no longer whether the Finnish dream can continue, but what will be left once it's gone. Because when you strip away the free healthcare, the generous benefits, and the social safety nets, what remains? A cold, dark country with an aging population, a shrinking economy, and a haunting memory of the paradise it once built, right before it was forced to tear it all down. History may remember Finland not as the happiest country in the world, but as the one that showed us that even paradise has an expiration date.